Hello, hello, hello. How's everybody doing? I just came from the gym, so pardon the the whole thing that I got going on here. Monday morning too, and it's raining here. So hi, Brenda. Brenda's right around the corner from me, and when I say right around the corner, like literally, like right around the corner from where I live. So hi, Brenda. I'm so excited to see you. Hi, Marilyn from Indiana. I hope the weather is better there. So I've been working on the quilt behind me. This is my Union Star quilt. It is my oldest UFO. You guys have heard me talking about this. Oh, another person almost around the corner. Emmaus, Pennsylvania. Hi, Elizabeth. How are you? So again, I've been talking about this quilt for I feel like months, so I apologize. But I decided that I was going to mid-custom quilt this particular quilt. And it brings to mind a whole bunch of different things for me because I really do like to quilt things to death. And quilting things to death obviously takes a lot longer than either an all over or even that mid-custom that we talk about. So in making all of my decisions on how to quilt this, I decided that continuous curves was going to be a really good way to quilt it. It's a bigger quilt, it's about a queen size, and I particularly don't make a whole lot of big quilts anymore because I tend to get bored with the quilting midway through, and that's where I am with this one. So you can see I'm just coming to the bottom of the quilt, and you guys all know that feeling when you see the bottom of the quilt. You're like, yay, I can't wait, it's almost done. So again, so continuous curves. Now, the thing that I like about continuous curves is, one, it can replace your stitch in the ditch. Now, I know I always say if you're custom quilting something, it really should get stitch in the ditch, but I didn't have it in me to do it on this one. So I decided I was going to do continuous curves in place of this. The other thing that it's really good for, right, is that if you have something that isn't pieced really good, which this one wasn't because it was 20 some odd years ago. If it's not pieced really well and you go to stitch in the ditch, sometimes it can create more issues than what you're really looking for. So the continuous curves is a little bit more forgiving with something that isn't pieced or might have a little bit of fullness inside. So I'm looking down, I have notes that I just wanted to touch on. It also allows you to travel around that block or the quilt depending upon the piecing within it. And I think that's really good, and it does make it go quite quickly. So there's a whole bunch of different ways to do continuous curves. So in today's, we're only going over the basic, okay, which is just using just a simple regular curve. In subsequent Facebook Lives this month, I'm going to be going over some other ways and other things that are similar to continuous curves, but give it a little bit of added pizzazz. So today, again, is just the basic curve. Now, if you are not familiar with continuous curves, I'm going to show you something in just a second. But what I do want to talk about is over in Tribe this month, I actually walk you through this particular quilt, right? I do the designing with you. I show you how I design it. I show you then how I go about quilting it and move my way through it. And then I give what I like to call a post-mortem on the particular quilt. Like what happened, what mistakes did I make, or what mistakes did I make that I actually wish I made more of? So it kind of walks you through, like, again, if I were to quilt this over, what would I do differently, right? So that's over in Tribe this month. That class just dropped today. So if you're interested, check it out. It is $24.97 a month, and we've got almost 3 years worth of classes in there. So I'm just going to move my iPad in here, and let's see, where am I going here? Okay, so continuous curves. So this is the block that I'm talking about, right? And continuous curves are like, you just want to pick your starting spot. So I'm going to start right here. And that's actually where I'm going to end as well. So what it is literally just curves, right? So you're going to go from this piece corner over to here, up here, here, and you work your way around the entire block, right? And it's really easier than you think. Now, there are some strategies to it, right? So I'm just going to come all the way around just so I can feel like I finished something today. And then I can go into the interior and do the interior as well. But that's the gist of continuous curves, okay? So what strategies do I have to help you navigate it a little bit better, right? When you start and you are going to go from this point over here, your starting point here, to say over here, what I want you to do is find a nice, comfortable speed for you. I will use cruise mode, which is BSR1 on the Bernina, and just like a nice slow 200 RPMs. And what I'm going to do is I'm starting there, and I am looking at that corner, right? I'm looking at it, so I hit it. And I'm looking at it, so I hit it, right? So you want to be looking to where you want to land, not where you're actually going. So what I want you to think of is I want you to think about driving. When you're driving, you're not looking right where you are, correct? You're looking where you're going. So that's what you want to do with the continuous curves. Look to where you want to land. Now, I'm a little out of practice. But that is what I did on this particular quilt. Some of the blocks look good. Some of the blocks don't look so good, but I told myself I wasn't pulling out my seam ripper for this particular quilt because it was just not happening. Wasn't going to do it. But again, and just go slow. You don't have, it's not a race, just looking at that spot that you want to land at. I can't tell you how actually it will really, really help you, okay? So there are a couple ways that you can do this freehand, right? And you can do it with rulers. So typically I will use rulers. I didn't on this particular quilt because again, I wanted to move through it pretty quick. But if I'm doing any kind of continuous curves on something that really means something, whether it be a show quilt or I'm gifting it to somebody, then I'm actually going to use a ruler. So let's take a look. And let's see. Okay, that's actually how I quilted it behind me. So I did add a little something. And of course, my tech doesn't want to work. So let's see if I can get it up and running. There we go. Okay, so if I just have this, right, I can use circles to do my continuous curves with, or I can use arcs to do my continuous curves with. Now, I'll often get the question, I have a 5-inch block, what size ruler do I need? Well, that's kind of a loaded question, right? Because it all depends. How far into the block, if I were going from this corner to this corner, how far into the block do I want to go, right? So let's say, whoops, let me find that other ruler. It's hiding on me. Okay. So if I wanted like something shallow, I'm going to use a bigger ruler, right? So I'm going to use something like this. Oops, there we go. Something like this, where it doesn't go far in. If I want my curve to go further in, I need to use something with more depth, right? So I'm going to use something with more depth to get all the way in there, right? So think about that. Like when you're choosing, if you're going to use a ruler to do your continuous curves, I want you to think about how far into that block do you actually want to go. So if I were doing continuous curves on this, I would start here, right? And I'm just going to bounce around my block. And the whole goal is one start and one stop. Now, remember, I'm going to show you something. When you're doing rulers, though, you have to be 1/4 of an inch. So I've got my handy dandy little hopper on here. That just gives me that, let's see. Okay, there we go. I think that did it. All right. So I am 1/4 of an inch away from where I want to land. Okay, don't have any lead in there now. Oh boy, it wasn't tech, it's pencil issues today. Gotta love that. Did I get it? No, yes. All right, so 1/4 of an inch away from where you want to land. Okay, so just remember that with your rulers, you don't want to be right on it when you position your ruler. You have to be 1/4 of an inch away because that's taking into account that foot on your machine. Okay, so just make sure that you think about that. So if you want precise curves, I would suggest you use a ruler for that. Then all of your curves are going to be consistent, and you won't have anything that looks, you know, out of place. You can do it freehand, which is what I did on the quilt behind me, right? And again, I'm going and I'm looking to where I want to land. But the problem with this is sometimes you get a little off, right? It can be a little shallower, or you get a deep one. So it just takes a little bit of practice with that continuous curve and actually getting to land where you want to land. So my favorite ruler to do continuous curves with really is this particular one. I love it. It fits right in my hand. These two are typically the two that I choose. It's the Pro Echo 3 and the Pro Echo 4. So that's continuous curves. That's the basic one. It's just a curve. And remember, it is a start and a stop. One start, one stop on the quilt, right? You want to really eliminate those starts and stops, because that's what actually takes your time, right? So I'd be finished this quilt back here if I didn't insist on putting some ruler work on it. I know, I don't know why I did that, but I did. I had to put some ruler work in there. If it was all just continuous curves, I would definitely be finished it. So if you're at all interested in seeing the design quilt review of the Union Star quilt, it is over on Tribe this month. I know like a couple of you are already on it. Wow, I have a lot of people from PA. I've got Deborah from Dover. Hi, Vicky. Oh, Vicky's waiting on storms. Okay. We've got British Columbia, Ohio. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, thank you guys for all joining me. Next week, Monday, I am traveling, so there will not be a Facebook Live, but we will resume them the following week, and we will go over, again, a different way of accomplishing continuous curves. These will be totally freehand, and actually the funny thing is they're a little bit more forgiving than actually just the regular curve. They're a little bit of fun, a little bit of flirty. So I hope you join me in 2 weeks. Remember, next week we won't be here, and we'll go over some more continuous curves. I hope everybody has a fabulous Monday, and I will see you guys all in 2 weeks.